Senator DeMint, how are you?
Laura, I'm doing great. It's good to be back with you.
And let me tell you, the president just wants to finish all that work he started because it's all working out so well. And maybe he wants to finish 18 holes in one Sunday. He's limited to 9 these days, I hear.
Well, it's a scary thought of him finishing what he started because he is reshaping the whole vision of America, and we can't take 4 more years of Obama. So 2012 is the big one, but really I think the election could be this August with how Republicans handle this debt ceiling. So that's my immediate focus right now is how do we actually stop that and return for immediate cuts and caps and balancing our budget.
Let me tell you, I had a question for you the other day, and I kept thinking I gotta ask DeMint this. I was speaking with a liberal friend of mine. Yes, I have liberal friends. It happens to be a neighbor of mine, a wonderful person. We disagree on pretty much everything, but a wonderful person. And he said, "How, Laura, in good conscience, given what this country is facing, how could you support these Republicans who are just playing this game with this debt ceiling vote? They know we're going to raise the debt ceiling. It has to be done. And that's adding uncertainty to the marketplace. That's hurting probably the stock market and hurting consumer confidence as well as everything else that's going on. How dare they do this?" What's your response?
Well, Laura, I think the thing that's going to shake the markets and the world more than anything else is the lack of political will to deal with our debt. I think that's why Standard & Poor's reacted last time. It wasn't because they were afraid we wouldn't pass this continuing resolution. It's that they thought we would without doing any significant cuts. We can't keep spending more than we're bringing in. Americans know that. We're already at an unsustainable debt level, and the president's talking about adding another $10 trillion to our debt. So the worst thing that we could do to create more instability around the world and undermine our currency is to allow this debt ceiling to go up without passing a constitutional amendment to balance our budget. I'm convinced that unless we do that, we're going to bankrupt our country. What I want to happen next year is for all the states to be debating whether or not the federal government should balance its budget. That's the only way to ever get back to a limited government.
So you think that even though it's pretty clear that this debt ceiling will be raised, that Republicans should extract as many concessions out of the Democrats on this issue of reform and spending cuts as possible?
Well, we have to, and what we're not doing right now is engaging the American people. We've fallen for this Obama trick to negotiate in secret with this Biden group, which is only to kill time until we create a crisis on August the 1st. What we need to do is bring the American people into it, make the demands very clear, and working with the House, we've got a clear statement that I think you're going to see dozens of groups in the next week begin to talk about, is cut significantly this year, cap spending to put us on a glide path towards a balanced budget, and actually pass a balanced budget amendment and send it to the states to ratify. We need to put that on the table, and my goal is to find 41 Republicans who will stand on that until we get it passed before they allow a debt ceiling vote to even take place.
Senator, let's talk about this debate last night. I'm sure you caught clips of it. Did you watch the whole thing or just
No, I
bits
didn't.
and pieces?
I was at an event myself, and so I've been going through all the news clips this morning to see who won or lost and what they said, and so I'm interested in your analysis as well.
Yeah. Well, I think that Michelle Bachmann, I think she acquitted herself very well. I actually think Romney came across as someone who understands business, and it came across as kind of the sensible chief executive. And I thought Tim Pawlenty, I mean, God bless him. I like Tim Pawlenty a lot, but he just seemed like he was kind of phoning it in. To me, it didn't seem convincing, and he didn't seem all that sure of himself. So that's my analysis. But my question for you is, you've said a couple of times in recent weeks that you still might consider getting into this race, given how Michelle Bachmann seems to be surging among conservatives. Any second thoughts about not getting into this race?
Well, I'm not considering it, but Michelle Bachmann does impress. If you saw Steve Moore's article in the Wall Street Journal, she's no lightweight intellectually. She knows the conservative principles, and she's well read, and so she shouldn't be underestimated. And I think we've got a good developing field. I'm not going to endorse anyone anytime soon until I see what position they take on this debt ceiling, the balanced budget, the real issues that face us. The theoretical questions are one thing, but I'm going to see what these candidates do as far as what is happening in here in Washington. And so I hope by the fall we'll see which ones really have the courage to be the next president.
Do you think the president, given the schedule, I mean, you know what it's like to work day to day in Washington and all the different meetings you have, your staff meetings, your strategy sessions, trying to figure out, what works as far as legislation, writing legislation. So you know what time it is when it comes to schedules. When you look at what the president is doing just in the next few days, he's going to a big Broadway fundraiser. He did 3 fundraisers and campaign stops yesterday in Florida. He's moving on today to Puerto Rico. Is there much time left in his schedule for the kind of concerted focus necessary to really be serious about fixing this economy?
Well, I don't think he's doing anything. I mean, he's just letting things play out. What he's already done, I think, is put his vision of collectivism and socialism in place, and so we're not in a position to stop it. We can just try to minimize the damage. But I think he's waiting for Republicans to play into his hands, and frankly, I think he believes Americans are stupid, Laura. He can do one thing and say another and expect people to believe it. He can stand on our borders and say they're secure when we know hundreds of thousands are going across. He still tells us the stimulus works. So he thinks he can say one thing and Americans will believe it. So we as Republicans need to have the credibility that we didn't have in the election of 2 years ago, and I think we started to get back last time. So that's why it's so important that we do what we said, and the debt ceiling is the big one over the next year. So criticizing Obama is something I do every day, but what we have in our power to do as Republicans is to stop this debt ceiling, and if we don't do it, I think we're toast.
Well, we're in deep trouble, that's for sure. Senator Jim DeMint, it's always wonderful to have you on. Say hi to all the great people of South Carolina for us. Good Americans, a lot of people suffering throughout this country, and please send them our love. You take care of yourself.
Thanks, Laura.